Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Shreek Raghavan. I'm a Group Program Manager in the Azure Compute Organization, and today I'm excited to talk to you about how you can make the most of Azure to reduce your cloud spend. In today's talk, we will cover three main things. First, we'll talk about understanding workload requirements. We understand that every workload is unique. In this portion, you'll see how you can map the needs of your workload to the technology offerings that Azure has, and together how we can come up with an optimal solution at the lowest cost. Next, we'll talk about time horizons. If you are able to project the needs of your application at steady state, and you know how long you will need to run that application, you can cause yourself a lot of significant savings by projecting the duration of your applications upfront. Finally, we'll talk about how you can leverage your existing on-prem infrastructure investments. Specifically, in this case, we're talking about licensing and how you can leverage that when you deploy into the Azure cloud. Azure offers you multiple things to maximize your ROI. We offer flexible consumption models. We give you Azure reservations, spot VMs, and prepaid software plans for Linux. We also offer additional unique benefits for price performance. You can leverage your existing Windows Server and SQL Server licenses with Azure Hybrid Benefits and deploy it in the cloud. Last but not the least, we offer a wide variety of tools that you can use to monitor and control your cloud spend. Let's first look at the computing options that Azure has. As you can see here, we have a wide variety of computing options for every workload, starting from entry level to the most demanding high-performance computing applications. Along the way, we have virtual machines that are targeted for compute-intensive workloads and those that are targeted for memory-intensive workloads. For the memory-optimized virtual machines, we have a family called M-Series that's ideal for your large memory applications. They offer terabytes worth of memory for applications such as SAP HANA. We also offer a wide variety of GPU-accelerated virtual machines that's ideal for deep learning workloads and visualization workloads. Last but not least, we have purpose-built offerings for your bare metal workloads, such as NetApp and SAP. For the purposes of this session, what I've done is I've tried to model the set of applications that you have in an enterprise. An enterprise doesn't have a single application. They have different workloads with different needs. So for the purposes of simplicity, I've assumed that all of these applications are deployed using a single virtual machine type. Here, I've picked an 8 vCPU virtual machine of the D families. These virtual machines, I'm assuming, are running 24/7, 365 days a year. You'll see as we progress through the session how you can layer in some of the compute optimizations that you see on the screen to lower your total costs. Burstable VMs are ideal for workloads that do not need the full CPU performance at all times. Think of an application where an employee has to check in and check out, and you're tracking that time. As you can imagine, check in and check out happens at specific points during the day, and that's when you will see the workload spike. Burstable VMs are ideal for these types of workloads. You purchase a VM and you're guaranteed a baseline performance. And when you're using less than the baseline performance, you actually build credits that you can later use when the workload spikes. When the workload spikes, you're able to burst up to 100% of the vCPU. We offer a wide range of sizes from 1 virtual CPU to 20 vCPUs. So in our application model, if you replace the web server workload with burstable VMs, you see a 55% drop in cost. Next, I'd like to talk about virtual machine scale sets, or VMSS. VMSS is designed to exploit the elasticity of the cloud. With VMSS, you can confidently deploy hundreds or even thousands of virtual machines in minutes. VMSS is very well integrated with the entire Azure technology stack. Today, I'm going to talk about the autoscale capabilities and how you can use autoscale to lower your costs. With autoscale, you can automatically increase or decrease the number of VMs that your application needs. You can create scaling rules based on metrics, such as CPU load. We also offer a whole bunch of other metrics that you can customize autoscale on. If you need to extend the amount of metrics that you want to use, you could install diagnostics extension and leverage additional metrics if needed. What you see here is an application that uses 20 VMs, and on occasion, it spikes up to 40 VMs. In the absence of autoscale, what you would have done is you would have provisioned for the peak, in this case 40 VMs, which is what we have done when we developed this model. With autoscale enabled, you use only the virtual machines that you need when you need it. So in this case, on average, you end up using 30 VMs. That results in a savings about 25%. Now let's talk about Azure Spot VMs. Azure Spot virtual machines provide you, the customer, a purchasing option to essentially buy the unused Azure compute capacity. With this, you get deep discounts compared to pay-as-you-go prices. You also have the ability to cap the price. With that, you essentially pay up to the price you agree to in advance. Spot VMs also offer you the deployment flexibility to run interruptible workloads with either just plain virtual machines or VMSS. It also offers you unique savings because you're able to capitalize on your existing investments with Azure Hybrid Benefit, and when you use Azure Hybrid Benefit to deploy Spot VMs. In our application, we're using Spot VMs for the rendering workload portion of the application. With this, we've modeled a savings of about 60%. With Spot VMs, you can actually get up to 90% of savings, and it depends upon the VM type and the region in which you deploy. At any point when Azure needs the spare capacity back, your VMs will be evicted with notice. As mentioned earlier, Spot VMs are great for interruptible workloads where job completion time is not a constraint. In other words, job completion time is flexible. It's okay if the job takes a little longer to complete. There are many scenarios that can take advantage of this, such as high-performance computing scenarios and visual rendering. Containers is another great way to lower your costs. When you convert your applications to be containerized, you can save costs greatly. Microservice-based applications are ideal for container-based technology. A lot of Azure services offer containers. AKS, Azure Kubernetes Service, is a managed service for managing containers. We also offer Azure Container Instances, which is a serverless offering. In a traditional virtualized environment, you have only virtual machines. And with virtual machines, you often end up in a situation where you have low utilization of container resources. Now, if you have a containerized application deployed in virtual machines, as you see here, you can pack these containers more densely. And when you pack these containers densely, what happens is you are essentially able to get rid of the redundant virtual machines that you don't need anymore, thereby saving costs. Here, I've taken the applications that can be containerized that are currently running on 20 virtual machines. And once they're containerized, you end up using 7 virtual machines. That's how we've modeled it. And the reason you're able to do that is because containers are lightweight, they use resources more effectively, they can be packed more densely, and you can get rid of the redundant virtual machines. And with that, you get a 65% savings for the portion of your application that's running using containers. With Azure reservations, you can get significant cost savings, up to 72 to 72% over pay-as-you-go, if you commit up to 1 or 3 years. This reservation discount is applied automatically and does not impact your running resources. With Azure reservations, you get budget predictability. You can pay monthly with no additional fee. You also get tremendous flexibility, and you can have unlimited exchanges for reservations that you've purchased. We offer reservations for more than just virtual machines. In fact, we offer reservations for a total of 19 products. Now, if you layer in the Azure reserved instance pricing on the applications that we have modeled so far, you can see what the savings looks like. With 1 year RI pricing, you get a total savings of 58%, and with 3 year RI, you get a total savings of 64%. With Azure Hybrid Benefit, you can essentially use your on-premise Windows Server licenses and save big on the cloud. You only pay for the base virtual machine server utilization when you have deployed into the cloud. The data center edition can run in Azure and on-premises simultaneously. Last but not least, and most important, is that this offer is unique to Azure. So you achieve savings on Azure that are unmatched by other cloud providers. If we layer in Azure Hybrid Benefit into the applications that we have modeled, with a 3 year RI and Azure Hybrid Benefit layered in, we see a total savings of 87%. That's 87% of the total cost that we modeled. This is a tremendous amount of savings that you could benefit from by using all of these options that we have just discussed. Now, I'm going to hand over to Jag Veerappan, who's a senior PM in the Azure Compute organization, who will demo Spot VMs for us.
Thanks, Rick. I'll use the next few minutes to give a demo on how to create Spot instances using VM ScaleSet. In the interest of time, I've already filled all the needed details in this, with the exception of Azure Spot instance, which says no, which is what you'll do when you're creating a pay-as-you-go instance. Since we're going to demo about Spot instances, I'm going to change this to yes. And what you will notice is there are two properties that will show up. One is eviction type, and two, it's eviction policy. With eviction type, you'll have two choices to do. One, capacity only, or two, price or capacity. If you choose capacity only, in which case the VMs will be evicted only when the Azure needs the capacity for pay-as-you-go workloads. And in the backend, we will set the max price for Spot to -1, which is up to pay-as-you-go rate. You also have the option to select price or capacity, in which case you will have an additional property that will show up that says maximum price you want to pay per hour. You have to enter the price in USD, and the price has to be greater than what the Azure Spot price is, in this case, 0.04307. I'm going to set for this demo the eviction type as price or capacity and change the eviction policy to delete. And I'm going to enter a price that is greater than the existing Spot price. So I'm going to say it's 0.055. As part of Ignite announcement, we are excited to share that we will provide pricing history for up to 3 months and eviction rate for trailing 28 days in Azure portal to begin with. You'll be able to click on compare prices in nearby region, and it'll pop out a blade, as you will see. Since I've selected East US, it'll show the East US. It'll show the trend of the last 3 months of price changes as default, and it'll show me, based on my proximity, the nearest region as East US 2 and Canada Central. You will also notice that we will see an eviction rate at the bottom, which is the trailing 28 days that I mentioned. When I compare this, I see that instead of East US, I get a much better rate in East US 2, as well as a lower eviction rate. So I'm going to select that and say, OK. Now I'm back here and just going to show you 2 more steps. I'm going to click on scaling. I'm going to go ahead and change this instance count to 10. And I'm also going to go and show in advanced that for Spot instances, we already have the allocation policy enabling scaling beyond 100 instances set to yes, and your spreading algorithm is set to maximum spread. Now I'm going to go ahead and click review and create. It'll go through the validation exercise before I can go ahead and click on creating the VM. And I'm going to switch to, in the meantime, switch to a VM instance scale set that I've already created. And in this case, wanting to go through a few properties that I want to show. In overview, you will see that I've already created 10 out of 10 in East US 2, and the Azure Spot instance is price or capacity. You can also click on instances and see that I have all the 10 instances running. You can go to properties and you'll be able to see that 10 out of 10 is succeeded. I have the Azure Spot eviction policy as delete, and I have the Azure Spot eviction type as price or capacity. And as I just showed you, you need to enter a price. So I've gone ahead and entered the max price that I'm willing to pay as 0.055. I want to show you something in addition to that, which is clicking on scaling. And you will have the option to go ahead and switch custom auto scale, select scale to a specific instant count, and update this to 10 and save this. And what this will do is when you go back to instances, you saw that the 10 instances were running. And in any event that any of these instances get evicted, the scaling will kick in and it will try to bring back the VM to maintain the count at 10. I do want to call out that we have focused the demo today on scale set only, but you'll also be able to create spot instances using single VMs with similar experience. With that, I'll hand it back to Shrik. Thank you.
Thank you, Jag, for the great demo. So in summary, what we've seen so far is that Azure offers you a wide range of options to help you reduce your spend. To take advantage of all of these savings, there is no substitute for pre-deployment planning to understand your time horizon needs and your workload needs. Exploit existing on-prem licensing whenever possible. Finally, this slide has some resources that you could leverage to learn more about how you could save costs on Azure. Thank you, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the session.